One of my favorite things in the world to do is watch Friends. I know it's been off for years and years. It's not even around, but I still find myself binge watching old episodes. And I was thinking about this today and thinking, it's the predictability of the friends in the circle, right? You have Chandler with his quirkiness, Monica with her type A of just everything has to be so neat and tidy and organized. It's Phoebe's ability to make you laugh at her silly songs. Ross always comes in with those smart comments, and Joey and him and his food, like it is just so hilarious. And of course, Rachel, she just brings everybody together, and it's just such this beautiful, cohesive team of people. And it's why I wanted to come on and share with you today that I have an opportunity for you to find your friends in the content creation space. So if you are thinking about creating your first or your next digital course, I don't want you to miss this opportunity because Amy Porterfield just opened the doors for registration for her Course Confident Bootcamp. And I'm actually offering a special bonus for anyone that registers for the Course Confident Bootcamp through my special link. So I want you to go to krystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register. That's krystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And what you're going to find when you get there is I have this special bonus private podcast series. It's called Money Mindset for Creators. So I want you to go register for Amy's bootcamp, download the podcast, and immediately start listening to it, because what this training is set up to do is to help you get your mind right about monetizing your content, making money so that you can fuel your content creation dreams. So go to krystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register for Course Confident. And I cannot wait for you to find your friends and find the people that will be there for you. Do you see what I did there? Yeah, nice little friends segue connection. Go to krystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And I cannot wait to see you inside. Okay, let's get into today's episode. Have I got a special treat for you today? I'm so excited to bring to you someone who has way more expertise in sound and audio engineering, because y'all know that's not my specialty. That's not my cup of tea, okay? Like, as much as I would love to sit here and tell you that I know all the ins and outs of the who's its and what's its galore. Yeah, I just watched The Little Mermaid the other day because I got Disney Plus, and I'm like a house full of boys, so I never get to watch those kind of... Anyway, so I'm so excited to bring to you today someone who has an extensive background in recording and all things sounds, and let's just get right to it. Welcome to the Profit Podcast, where we teach entrepreneurs how to start, launch, and market their podcast. I'm your host, Krystal Profit, and I'm so excited that you're here. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Because if you've been thinking about creating a podcast for a while, well, I'm so glad you found this show. Think of this as the shortcut / time-saving version of searching Google and YouTube for hours and hours trying to figure out the world of podcasting. Trust me, as a busy mama of 3, I get it. You don't have a lot of time to be spent, or wasted, I should say, searching the web, trying to find all the right ideas and all the amazing things that are out there, and you just end up overwhelmed. Trust me, I've been there, done that, took home the souvenir. But this podcast is going to help you in practical ways, because twice a week we'll be delivering episodes that are going to give you steps to help you create a podcast your audience can't wait to listen to. So let's get right to it, shall we? So like I said in the intro, we have a special guest today. I'm chatting with Ray Smith, who is the founder and CEO of the Houston Pod, which is a full-service podcast studio located in downtown Houston. The Houston Pod is dedicated to helping brands record, edit, and develop their podcast to increase brand awareness using the power of voice. And I wanted to specifically speak to Ray because he has a very interesting background in sound. And like I said in the beginning, y'all know this is not my specialty. My specialty is helping brand new podcasters, entrepreneurs learn how to use podcasting to scale their business, increase their message, and reach more people. And I was so thankful to learn so much during this conversation with Ray, and he broke things down to a practical level. Okay, like that's probably the biggest thing is, yes, he has a very sophisticated background, but he kept everything super simple. We didn't get too high level, and if we did, we got a little, geeky on some stuff. We said, hang on, let's break it back down, because I wanted to make sure that you had some awesome takeaways to improve the sound of your podcast. So let's get right into it. Here's my interview with Ray. All right, Profit Podcast listeners, I'm so excited to introduce to you today, Ray Smith. So welcome to the show, Ray.
Hi, Krystal. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, so Ray is a fellow Houstonian. I don't even know how you say that. I'm not from Houston originally, but yeah, so Ray is in the Houston area, and I really wanted to talk to him today about some of the cool things that he's doing. But before we get there, Ray, kind of tell us your backstory. How are you doing what you're doing today? Like what kind of led you on this journey?
Well, I was always into creative writing and music, coming out of high school, and just really couldn't find my place in the world or even in college. Like there were no colleges in the Houston area that really catered to my craft of creative writing and music, being an MC and also music production. But there were programs developing. This was back in 2009. So I transitioned into a school called Media Tech Institute, which is a audio production school in Southwest Houston, and started taking classes there and would graduate in 2009. And from there, it was just really trying to find my footing after the whole market crash. So, I was just picking up anything, and definitely people weren't spending money on music and music production, and podcasting was kind of finding its way into engineers' hands at that time. So again, I was just trying to find my way for years, and then the podcasting thing came about 2 years ago, and I was like, let me give this a try again, and it just worked out so well for me because I was an avid podcast listener since 2009, and I was like, this makes sense because I can get, paid to, listen to the podcasts that I like and I edit. So this was something that my wife and I built a business model around, and we said, hey, we're going to go full, throttle with this thing. And here we are today, with 10 subscribers, and we're doing well, just growing every day.
That's awesome. That's so I can totally relate. I graduated from college in 2009, so I can totally relate. Yeah. Where, and I went to business school, something that was super general, and people were like, oh, you don't have any experience and the market's crashed. Good luck.
Yeah. Right. That's what it was.
Good luck finding something.
Exactly.
So, but that's so cool. So I love that you've been able to marry kind of this creative side of you as well as, turn it into a business. So can you tell us a little bit about how you've been able to do that? Because you mentioned, you work with editing. Like, what does that look like if you were to work with somebody for their podcast?
So where I started was with the Podcast Editors Group on Facebook. So that helped me to get my footing and figure out what does a podcast editor do? How much do they charge? Why do you even need a podcast editor? So I had to educate myself to even offer the services because I'm coming at it from a purely scientific audio engineering perspective. Like, what do I need to do to, give my clients the best value, not just on the audio production side, but also diving into the marketing side, the publication side. So how I work with my clients now, and after being educated through that particular group, is I have a portal on my site where each week our clients send in their podcast audio. So they'll send in their audio, and then I'll format it. I will edit it, remove all the ums, ahs, pauses. And then what my specialty more so is actually working on the sonics, getting it to sound correct. So I'll do the EQ and the compression as well. And then I will publish it for them. So if they have a host site, I'll go log into their host site, whether it be Lipsyn or Anchor, log in and upload it for them. So it's everything seamless, and, there's no hiccups, and just making sure that they have a fluid process that they can depend on.
Okay. That's so good. So I have so many questions. Oh my gosh. You just said so much, and my brain is firing, because I love that you said, here you are with this creative background, and you understand the actual technicalities to do with sound. And this is where I get a lot of questions, because I don't know if you've listened to the podcast, but I am not trained in audio engineering. And my specialty, I like to say, is coming up with content and content creation. And most people listening to this podcast are passionate entrepreneurs that have just a drive to share their message that they know will help their people within their audience. So with knowing that, what would you say, let's say the top 2 things that you want people to know about their sound quality? What are the 2 most important things that someone who doesn't have a technical background, but they need to understand, let's say these 2 principles, what would that be?
That the microphone is designed to pick up what is in the environment. Is the best way to say it. So your environment means everything. I get so many podcasts where people record in the most comfortable place rather than the most sound place. So I think just thinking through, like you don't want to be in a room with a lot of towels. You don't want to be in a room with an empty room. Even just put in some furniture, a couch, or something that the sound can be absorbed on will help with those reflections. A lot of people say it sounds real echoey when it's the reverb. There's a lot of flutter in the reverb because the sound is bouncing off the walls as you're talking. It's like walking into a brand new empty house, and it's you hear it. But as soon as you put the furniture, in that house, the sound stops bouncing off of so many things because it's absorbed by the couch, or it has to travel in different directions. So that's just something to think about. It's just the environment. If people can start there, I think some of the cheapest microphones out can sound incredibly much better. And I guess the second thing is it's just, man, give me a second here, because there's a bunch. I'm trying to narrow it down to 2. Make sure that you're recording in high quality when you're recording your podcast. A mistake I made personally was when I first started years ago. I was recording in 16-bit versus 24 bits. And that's actually slicing the quality of your podcast almost in half if you're recording in 16-bit. Now, you kind of end up, when you convert it to an MP3, yes, you will be compressing that file down, but you want to start with high quality audio first, especially when you start adding plugins and things of that nature to it. You really want your quality to come in to the session HD, I would say, before working on it. So to kind of sum that up, just make sure that you're recording, if you can, in 24 bits rather than 16 bits. That's some of the biggest issues, I get when I'm editing people's podcasts.
Okay. Well, that's really good to know. I'm so glad that you said that about the environment, because this has been my issue. So right now, if you're listening to this audio and it doesn't sound as clear as my normal ones, it's because I am in my office and I have been recording on my handheld recorder. I have a Tascam that I love. Oh my gosh, it was a splurge for me.
Gotcha.
It's so much fun. I love this thing. But I take that and I go in my closet, and people know that. I tell everybody, I'm like, I record in my closet because it sounds better. But normally when I'm doing interviews, I'm trying to let my interviewee speak more. So you don't hear as much of my bad audio, but I'm surrounded. I have glass doors. I have tile on the floor. I have a huge rug, but it's bad in here. So I could have $1,000 microphone sitting here in front of me and it wouldn't matter.
Right.
So I love that you hit that home, because a lot of people, they truly believe they could go out and spend a ton of money on fancy equipment. But as Ray said, and if you're listening to this, you need to soundproof your environment first. Before, guys, I'm talking on a $20 microphone right now. Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be fancy.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. It really doesn't.
And I love what you said about the specific settings within recording. Now, do a lot of your clients, if they were to come to you and say, okay, Ray, I want to record my stuff, but I don't know where to start. I suggest a lot of people start within Audacity, because it's free mostly, but you can actually use it whether it's on a Mac or a PC. But what do you recommend whenever it comes to just recording your episodes? Is there something specific that we need to know about, or is there other programs that we should be exploring?
Me personally, just to answer that question, it honestly doesn't matter when it comes to the platforms that you're using to record, the DAWs. Because the DAW is meant to, record the information, move the information around. You're not really going to have a quality difference there. It's more of a preference. And audio engineers have these arguments all day about which one's better. You can use a $30 program, or you can use some of the $200 programs like Logic or something like that. And you're really not going to experience any difference of quality. So then we move to preference. Okay, so what is your preference? For me, as a Mac user, it just makes sense for me to use Logic, and because it interacts with GarageBand well. Some of my clients send me GarageBand files, and I can open them up in Logic because it's like a kind of a brother sister type of thing there. So it's really a matter of preference. Audacity's great. I use it here and there, but for me, preference-wise, I love Logic just because I'm used to it. Some people are they might find Logic more confusing than Audacity. Some people find Audacity. I would say try a few, if you can, and see what works best for you getting started.
Okay, but so Logic, that is a paid program that you use on your Mac? Okay.
Right.
So you have Logic, and then that interfaces kind of with GarageBand. Now, what if you had someone that was a PC user? Would you recommend Audacity, or would you recommend another program?
I would recommend Audacity. Now, if you want to take it a step further, I would recommend, I can't think of it.
Is it Audition?
Audition.
Is that Adobe's?
Yes.
I think that's
Adobe Audition. Yeah. So Adobe Audition, if you're a PC user, absolutely. That is the kind of the industry standard. Even in radio broadcasts, you want to go with Audacity.
Being a woman in business comes with its own unique set of challenges, but also so many opportunities. We get ahead by leaning in to what makes us different from business as usual. I'm Samantha Hartley, host of Profitable Joyful Consulting, inviting you to a special 6-episode series exploring the experience of being a woman in business. You want to hear from women consultants who've hit $1 million, who sell 6-figure engagements, or who've broken their own revenue ceilings? Yeah, those are my clients, and they'll be sharing too. Join me for 6 must-listen episodes that tackle key challenges for women consultants. Follow Profitable Joyful Consulting on your favorite podcast app.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cause I've had a few people ask me about Audition, and I'm like, guys, I teach this stuff and I don't even use Audition, only
Yeah.
because Audacity has served me really well. And
Right.
it's, unless I have some kind of crazy something that goes wrong with it, I'm going to keep
Yeah.
using Audacity.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it works. Like you said, it's
It does.
preference, and
Right.
it's so easy for me to use. And
Right.
this is so funny. So as an audio engineer, someone with your background, does it make you like cringe a little bit that I only use like 2 settings in Audacity? And like, that's all I do. I don't do anything else. I don't play around with everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I did, I listening over to your podcast, I did see, the last episode sounded great. So whatever you did there did sound great.
Okay.
So I did.
I'm gonna pull back the curtain a little bit.
Yeah.
Because Ray's like, oh, Krystal did something, and you probably only you can notice a really big difference. But I'm sure there's a few people that are like, wait, it sounds clearer. So
it does. Right. Yeah.
I ran my last 2 episodes through Auphonic.
Okay.
So if anybody's listening, you don't know what Auphonic is, it is, I know it's a paid program. I've used the free version of it to kind of test out creating, leveling off the audio. Cause I do notice at times it gets higher then lower, and I'm trying to manually control it in Audacity. And that's kind of drives me bananas, because I'm like, I can't really hear the pitch if it's too loud or too soft. So that is what I did. Ray has called me out, and it is okay, because I'm going to tell y'all about this tool. I have a whole episode coming up about it. But what do you have to say about some of these online programs that are free versus paid? Like if someone were to have a little bit of money to spend to enhance their experience, what would you recommend that they concentrate on?
As far the biggest change I would make for people who are doing interviews is going to be making sure that, your podcast audio, it can be multi-tracked. So say you're doing a interview, kind of like we're doing right now, people can't see, but it's online. It's what we would have to do is find a program or a solution that would allow us to have separate tracks so that we can edit each other's voice separately, right? So a program that does that best that I found is Squadcast. Squadcast will allow you to record multi-tracks rather than a single track. And that helps when it comes to really trying to EQ each voice separately instead of having the tracks summed, when you get them. So I would say look into Squadcast if you're getting into interviews. I'm a big fan of Squadcast. A small company that really just does a bang up job. They're just a great group of people, great customer service, and they really want your interview audio to sound great, so they'll answer any questions for you.
That's awesome. Is that a free program or is that paid?
They do have a trial. I'm not sure how long it lasts, but it's a paid program. I think around $20 per month.
Totally affordable. And I would say that's worth it if you plan on doing an entire interview podcast.
Right. Exactly.
So that's good to know.
Yeah. And there's other programs out there. I've tried other programs as far as interviews go that are online, and nothing just seems to stand up to them when it comes to quality. It's almost like you have a guest in the room recording. Their quality is so good.
That's
and you
awesome.
can export as WAV, and it's just great. So yeah.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. Outside of that, I would look into getting plugins, start experimenting with your compressor and EQs. And that's kind of how most engineers started. We started, seeing what other engineers were using. And then we said, hey, we're going to go experiment with those plugins. And then you start to find your way around the plugin world. But essentially what you want to start off with is an EQ and a compressor. That's the core of audio engineering and manipulation of the sound. So I would suggest go to waves.com and look through a few plugins and even give it a customer service a call as well. I personally did that when I transitioned from music production into the audio field, just to kind of brush up with their customer service and say, hey, what are some great plugins I can start with or really focus on to enhance this podcast production company, that I've started up.
Right. No, that's so awesome. So if y'all are listening to this and you're like, Ray lost me whenever he started talking about anything other than Audacity. So y'all, this is what Ray does. Like, these are the services that he provides. And it's actually why I wanted him to come on the podcast, because I wanted to shine a light on the availability of people just like Ray who are wanting other podcasters to succeed. Like, they want to have, for you to have amazing audio quality. So Ray, if somebody's listening and they're like, I don't even know, like, I can record on my computer and that is about it. And some days that's kind of a crapshoot on whether it's going to sound good or not. So if somebody's like, I want to work with Ray, what does that look like? Can you kind of walk us through the process if someone's listening and they would want to hire you for your services? What does that really look like?
Well, it starts with a discovery call. I need to kind of see where that particular podcast host is and in their whole, journey of podcasting. Like, have you bought your equipment yet? If you bought equipment, do you want to consider purchasing, more equipment for what you already have, or do you want to work with the equipment that you have until, you save up and you can get some of the more, professional stuff? It just depends on where that podcaster is. So it just starts with a conversation, and then based on their budget, I recommend gear, programs, and things of that nature. And it's a progression, I'm not going to dump everything on you, all at once and say, hey, you got to go out and get the best stuff and the best equipment to start. I really take into considerations people's budgets, people's expectations. For instance, I have a coach. She's a business coach, and she just had a goal of recording a podcast every week for a year straight. And I'm not going to, harp on her about her audio and things of that nature. She's just like, that's just my goal. She's just like, I just want to focus on speaking and getting better right now, So we set her up with a very basic package, and she's probably, I think, on like past the 50s now. So she's staying consistent, but it's really finding what are your goals? What are your expectations, even for yourself and for me?
Yeah.
So,
well, that's awesome. No, that's such a great question. Instead of saying, look, this is the only way I will work with people and you have to have high quality everything. Because if I were to come to Ray and say, hey, Ray, he'd be like, Krystal, we need to talk about some stuff.
Right. Yeah. Because
that's such a great point. And I so appreciate your honesty in that, because I know a lot of people listening right now, they are trying to create content that can sustain their business as part of, it's almost the marketing arm of their business. It's like, this is how I interact with my customers or potential customers. It's how they get to know me. And so a lot of them are just trying to keep their head above water. Right. And they're like, I just want to put this out into the world.
Right.
So I appreciate you saying that. But with that being said, like, what are some of the goals that we should shoot for? Like, above and beyond just being consistent when it comes to our audio, should we try to have like everything leveled off, or is it more important to have the best, like environment, soundproof environment? I don't know how you would say that. Like, what is the number one thing that we should be concerned about when it comes to our audio?
Really, just thinking through soundproofing your room, soundproofing your room, and also sound treating your room. Soundproofing stops the noises from coming into the room. Sound treatment stops the reflections. So you kind of, that would be my like core thing. If in the perfect world, every podcaster did that would be a great jumpstart, is to just get the room sound. If you can move your podcast studio into a room that's more acoustically pleasing, that would be awesome. That would be a great start. But I know everyone can't do that right off the bat. But that, like you said, that's something that would be a goal and for someone to start working towards. Also, I think just having a reference track, you might have a podcast that you like and you like the sound of it and it sounds what people call professional. I would try to get the audio from that podcast and start comparing it to yours, even if it goes down to you pulling it into your actual session and listening to it versus yours. So then you can start seeing, where you are on that spectrum, because this is all relative. Some people say, hey, I like the echo in there. I like that sound.
Right.
I'm fine with that. I have a grungy podcast. I have a guy who does a protractor podcast. He kind of likes some grunge. It's fine. So it's about preference. So find a podcast you like, find a sound you like, and start chasing that sound.
That's oh my gosh, that's such great advice, because I know whenever I started, I was listening to podcasts that were produced. If you're familiar with Dave Ramsey, it's like,
oh yeah,
it was Dave Ramsey, Chris Hogan, Christy Wright, and they're recording in like this $50,000 studio at least. Yes, right. And so for me, it was crippling for a while, because I thought, well, you have to have this amazing setup. So from what I hear you saying is like, no, you just make sure it sounds great.
It sounds great. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, most of the microphones on the market sound really good until you put them in a bad environment. Right. And and that's kind of the argument too. Yes, there are better sounding microphones, but I'm using a $700 microphone right now, but it's not designed for podcasting. So it's about getting a microphone as well that's kind of designed for speaking and for podcasting as well. So,
well, you just walked right into that one. So what are your top recommendations? Give us 3 microphones that you would recommend to a new podcaster, someone who's mid-level, and someone who is like, I'm all in. I want to have the best sounding audio. What would you recommend?
So let me start top down, because that's kind of the world I'm in. So I use the RE320 at my personal recording studio. We have 3 of those. That microphone is the most widely used microphone in radio, and also the RE20 is also one of the most widely used. They're kind of the same build, same makeup. One's just kind of newer. It's a kind of like a replica of the other. But those 2 microphones just sound great on anyone's voice. It stops reflections and things like that from, in the room as well. It's just a great all around mic. It ranges about $200 to $300. Stepping down from that, I would kind of go with like maybe a SM58, possibly kind of start looking into more of your dynamics. If you're stepping down from that, looking into more of your handheld microphones, things like that you can use. And then, so SM58 for that. Now, if you're dropping down even lower than that, but still has a great sound, you can look into the Blue Yetis. I'm fine. I've heard negative reviews on the Blue Yetis, but that's all based on environment. Blue Yetis are fine. That's the core 3, I would start with. If you're just getting into podcasting, definitely, look at the Blue Yeti first and then kind of go up from there. Look at the SM58 and then probably look at the RE320. Okay. And compare.
And I'm going to link to all these in the show notes so you can see what Ray's actually talking about. But the microphones that you mentioned that aren't the Blue Yeti, are those XLR microphones or are they USB?
So the Yeti is going to be a USB.
Okay.
And the 58 is going to be an XLR, as well as the RE320 is going to be XLR.
So the reason why I ask, if you're listening and you're like, what, y'all are throwing a bunch of letters around, I don't know what you're talking about. So the Blue Yeti can plug directly into your computer. And it's just like you plug it in and you're good to go. You're off to the races. But if someone has an XLR microphone, what is the best setup for them to get it connected to their computer?
Okay, so with that, you want to look at getting an interface. Now, when it comes to interfaces, that's one of those. It goes back to the microphone kind of conversation. I would say with that, really do your research. Really make sure you're getting the best value for an interface, because some interfaces come with things that you might not even need.
Okay.
So with that, again, there's an array. I wouldn't even recommend some of the ones that I use, just because we record multiple people. I personally use a M32R, which is I think a 8-channel mixer. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So most people won't need that, but look at the Behringer line. Behringer makes great interfaces, hands down. I would say look at all the Behringer line of interfaces that they make, because they have 1-channel, 2-channel, 3-channel, 4-channel interfaces that will just kind of fit any podcast that you might do.
Okay. This is so helpful, because I know I get asked this question so much, and being as how I have only been using USB microphones, except for I do use my Tascam to record, which I don't need to be connected to anything whenever I use that. That is my handheld recorder, if y'all don't know what that is. But this is a question I get asked, and I always kind of look deer in headlights. I'm like, I don't have any recommendations. So I'm glad that you shared that, because now I'm going to point them to this episode and say, go listen to what Ray has to say, or even better, hire Ray and he can walk you through how to do all of this stuff, y'all. Correct. If you want help with this stuff, Ray, like, this is his background. This is his jam. He knows how to do all of this stuff. Ray, I so appreciate everything that you shared with us here today, but I have to ask, are you up for some rapid fire questions?
Oh yeah, let's do them.
Okay. All right. So do you consider yourself a perfectionist?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You have to be, when it comes to editing out like 90 ums and ahs and smacks and all types of weird stuff that the human voice makes. So yes, if I'm not, I'm probably in the wrong profession, but yes, I'm definitely a perfectionist. Yeah.
Okay, I have a follow-up question to that one. What is the weirdest voice you've heard, or the weirdest sound?
The weirdest sound. Oh gosh. The clearing the throat. Like, I've heard people just like clear their throats, and it's just like when it's amplified by a compressor and a microphone, it just really just rumbles, and it's just not. It's
nothing. Like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh. Yeah. Some people will clear their throat and just won't realize it.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, so who would be your dream podcast guest?
Oh, that's a good one. I started off listening to Dave Ramsey. I would have to say him. I mean, I just always have, loved him as a businessman, the way he communicates, things like that. Just to have him on, we might not even talk about audio, might just be more business related topics, but he's been pivotal in my life, so definitely would love to have him.
That's awesome. And if y'all have never seen Dave Ramsey, you've never listened to him, please go look him up. He will change your life, because I totally agree with everything Ray just said. He brings the fire, and let me tell you.
Yes, right.
Okay, so my last question is, what's one piece of advice you'd like to give to a brand new podcaster?
I would say consult an expert. Really, you don't want to go out and start buying everything that's out there. You don't want to just jump right into it. And if this is your first time ever doing a podcast, you really want to talk to a few experts, maybe just get a consultation call going, just so that you can at least get headed in the right direction. Because sometimes, podcasters who want me to edit their podcast will, get in contact with me, and they've invested so much into the wrong equipment. And I just hate to break it to them. Like, this is not going to be the best solution for you. And then, they've wasted a lot of money, a lot of time. They've already recorded episodes with that, or, things like that. So I would just say consult with an expert at least before buying anything, investing time into anything. Just consult with an expert.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. That made me cringe a little bit when you said that, because I've interacted with some people that they've wasted thousands of dollars. And I'm just like, oh no, like you're not on the right path. So I love that you shared that. I love that.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Ray, for being on the show. So where can we connect with you, and where can people find more about you if they're interested in hiring you for your services?
You can go to thehoustonpod.com. That's our company website. But also you can connect with us via Instagram at the Houston Pod on Instagram. So yeah, those are the two places you can reach out and connect with me. And I'm always open for a chat.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much, Ray. I appreciate all the wisdom that you shared, and we're going to put everything in the show notes. And
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Krystal.
Y'all, that interview was so awesome. I'm so blessed to have other podcasters in the Houston area. And if you are here in Texas, you don't even have to be in Houston. You don't even have to be in Texas. I encourage you to go reach out to Ray, talk to him about his services. If that's something you're looking for someone to help you step up your podcast game, or honestly, you're just tired of doing it all yourself and you want professional help, go check out Ray's services, see what he has to offer. And I can't wait to see what they do in the coming year with their business. And I look forward to having many more conversations to bring you some practical tips on improving your audio quality, because y'all know, I already said it. I've said it a few times, and that's not my thing. That's why I rely on experts to bring you the best information possible. But that does it for this episode. So make sure you go check out those mic recommendations and all the other equipment we talked about in this episode at krystalprofit.com/episode 110. And if this is your first time tuning in, thanks for listening to the show. I invite you to subscribe and leave a review, leave us a rating. You can tell us what your favorite takeaway was about this episode, or tell me which episode has been your favorite if you have tuned in to a few other episodes. Take a screenshot and share it out on social media, because I would love to share all the cool takeaways or the insights that you found listening to this podcast. Like I said, make sure you check out the show notes, krystalprofit.com/episode 110. And remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere.
Hey, Profit Podcast listeners. Thanks for sticking around to a little bit after the episode to hear this special message, because I want to hear from you. We are starting a new segment called Fan Mail Shoutouts, and I want to hear from you, and I want to hear your questions. What do you want to know? What questions have you been dying to ask me? So here's how to make this happen. Go to the app where you're listening to this podcast right now. Go there. I'll wait a second. Okay. Now, once you're there, you're going to see a hyperlink at the top of the episode description that says, "Send Krystal a text message." And that's all I want you to do. Send me a text. It could be casual, informal. It could be totally anonymous. Or if you want, you can include your name and the name of your podcast or content wherever you are creating, and I will give you a special shout out in an upcoming episode. So again, go to the show notes for where you're listening to this episode right now, and it will say, "Send Krystal a text message." And I cannot wait to hear from you and give you a shout out in an upcoming segment of Fan Mail Shoutouts.